I'm so excited to speak to our guest. She is a physician assistant in the New Jersey area that specializes in aesthetics. Please help me introduce the lip queen, Jessica.
Hello, hello, everyone. I'm Jessica Rhee from Jersey. I'm excited to be here and share my knowledge and go through some questions and let's have some fun.
Hi, my name is Jonathan McLean, and I'm the founder and CEO of McLean Aesthetics.
Welcome to the dark side.
Let's go. Nice, nice, amazing. So let's jump right into it. I'm excited.
Okay.
So let's start from the beginning. How did you get into aesthetics?
So I've been injecting now for 14 years.
Yeah.
I've owned my own practice for the last 4. But before that, I worked for a plastic surgeon for 10 years. So I kind of just got lucky. I was at the right place at the right time. It was right when Botox and Restylane were really starting to pick up some traction. That was it. That's all we had. So I've been there for the launch of like everything. And I just wanted to be a surgical assistant in the OR with a plastic surgeon. I just loved plastic surgery. So truthfully, I just got lucky. And then I just got really good at it and injected a lot and, full steam ahead. So yeah, right place, right time.
Yeah, super cool. What made you want to? Because I know you say you started from plastic surgery. And plastic surgery, I know it's similar, but it's really different from
Mhm.
doing like like injectables and things of that nature. What
Mhm.
made you kind of want to switch over?
Well, I did ortho first, which I loved. I just love the OR in general. It doesn't matter what kind of surgery it is. I just always gravitated more towards that. But I'm artistic and I've always have been artistic. So I just thought I would do well in plastic surgery with suturing and everything. And I just like the fine detail of it. So that's what, drew me to it.
That's super interesting. What do you do that's kind of artistic?
Everything. I always took art classes in college, even though I was a science major, always took art classes. I did pottery classes, painting classes, drawing classes. I wanted to be an art major, but my parents said that they wouldn't pay for college. So I had to pick something a little more traditional, but I always have had it as a hobby. Usually if, now that I have kids in a practice, I don't get to do as much as I used to, but if I'm going to do anything, it's always painting.
Wow, super interesting because I find like the people that are the best at this is really people that are like have some type of art background.
Yep. And I always tell new injectors when I'm training them, I like get the adult coloring books with the little fine tip markers and draw in the lines of like of the art coloring books. You know what I'm talking about? They're like really intricate. Just sit there with a glass of wine on a Friday, fun night in, and just draw on these coloring books. And I think it helps with the fine motor skills because it's really important with injecting.
Yeah, I can definitely
Yeah.
understand that for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk New Jersey. Tell us a
Okay.
little bit about the trends up there. I'm in South Florida, as I told you a little bit behind the scenes. It's like the
Mhm.
mega hub. They're always trying new stuff here. How is
Yeah.
everything in Jersey?
Jersey, I feel like is up there as one of the hot spots. If I have to think of like the hot spots in the country, it's California, New York, Texas, Florida, Jersey. All through the coast, I think people are really into their appearance and wellness. But I'm like an hour outside of New York City, so we kind of get more of that crowd. I live more in like a Wall Street area where people commute into the city. So we have more of the city vibe. But for the most part, people want to look natural. They don't want to look done. They don't want to look overdone. So that's how we differ from, maybe Florida or California. But yeah, it's definitely a hot spot and very popular in my area.
What are the trends that you're seeing right now in that area?
I mean, it's always lip filler, always, always. And, now more people just want Botox as maintenance. It's like girls, women getting their hair done, men, just want to do self-care. Everybody wants to do Botox now. So everybody is getting Botox. And if you don't have Botox, people kind of look at you like, why don't you have Botox? You should have Botox. So, yeah, it's always going to be little bits of filler and some Botox.
Do you think it's ever too young to start?
I do. I have daughters, I do. I mean, it's hypocritical of me, because I got Botox when I was 24. And I have to say at the time that was not the norm. And all of my friends from college wanted to stage like an intervention because they thought that I needed to see a psychiatrist. Like, why don't you love yourself? And now they come in and they're like 18 and I have to check for ID. It's like the bouncer at the club. Like, are you sure you're 18? You can't get injected if you're not. I mean, I've had like moms bring their 16-year-old daughter in for lip filler where you're like, no, you can't have this. This is not normal. So yeah, I think it is too young sometimes when they come in. And it's all this influence of social media, but with Botox, you can be 18 and have a very deep line. It's genetic. You could be like my mom who's 62 and has no lines and I don't inject her. So, I think that age does play a factor, but not always.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, Daxify is a new type of toxin that's on the market. What
Mhm.
do you think about it? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, listen, I have high hopes for it. I think it's going to be great if it does what it says it's going to do. But I don't have any experience with it yet, so I can't give a definitive answer. But I mean, listen, if they say it lasts, I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. 6 months, it's amazing, right?
Mhm.
I feel
Now,
the
but
pricing.
the flip side to that, sorry, is that I wouldn't necessarily do it on a new patient. Like I'd want to establish their pattern and how many units they need and make sure they haven't had any kind of adverse events or, if they're not prone to drooping, people that are kind of like wham bam, thank you, ma'am, get their same thing every time and want a little more longevity. I think it's great, but I wouldn't experiment with it with my first time injecting a patient.
I guess the discussion I'm hearing around it is like because it lasts so long,
Mhm.
the pricing of the product, how are practices going to price that product?
I would assume it would be double, I
Yeah,
think. I
yeah,
mean, I don't know anything about how much it costs to buy. I don't know anything. So, I think it depends on what it's costing the practice to purchase and then also the longevity out of it.
for sure, for sure. Now, I know working for a practice versus actually owning your own practice, there's a lot of different things that you experience. Can you
Mhm.
kind of go over a little bit of like the benefits and the pros and cons?
Listen, all pros. Like, I think not everyone's built to own a practice because it's exhausting and you kind of get beat down from all angles from making sure your staff is happy, making sure all the patients are happy, making sure you have enough revenue coming in to cover all your expenses. um there's a lot to it, but there is also a freedom to just going to the office, injecting and going home and not having to do anything when you're at home. When you own a business, it's 24/7. Before I was on here with you, I was downstairs doing work. So it's nonstop and it's constant, but I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah, it's not for everyone, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What were some, I guess, some struggles or challenges that you occurred earlier on starting and opening it up?
I was fortunate enough where I worked for someone else for 10 years. So I had built up my clientele and I had already been booked out, several weeks in advance at that point. Now I'm booked out 8 months. I don't take new patients. So that is different. Um, but I kind of opened it knowing that I wouldn't fail because I knew I was going to have patients. It wasn't like I was just starting, just figuring out how to inject and trying to market myself. I think that's incredibly difficult. Um, more of the struggles were, contracts and negotiating leases and negotiating, more business stuff that you kind of have to learn as you go because nobody really tells you how to do it.
No,
Even just things like, workers' comp and malpractice and all these things that you need in order to have a practice. Nobody teaches you that. You don't learn that in med school and PA school. So, there was a learning curve there, but you can figure out anything with the internet these days, I guess. So it was all good.
for sure, self-learning.
Doable. I don't want to deter anyone from doing it, but just know that there's a lot of pieces that have to fit together.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I can definitely imagine. Now, I wanted to talk about the comment that you just made that you don't take on new patients, and it's been
Mhm.
2 years, right? That
Mhm.
is amazing. That's amazing. That's every injector's, I think, dream is to have like a clientele that they know and can just keep seeing over and over again. But obviously, you had to get there one way, and one way that I've noticed that you do really good is branding yourself.
Mhm.
Brand yourself on one thing. What kind of made you want to brand yourself on only one thing, and how did you kind of develop your brand?
So I just I didn't want to be the cheesecake factory of injectables. I wanted to be more of like a niche practice where people go for that because I think that now especially patients aren't loyal to one place. So even though you offer everything, they know what you're the best at and then they're going to go to somebody else who's the best at that other thing. So for me, I just I just didn't want to deal with the nonsense of having 10 million lasers and all this other stuff that I don't need. Injectables, it's kind of just easy. It's easy for me. And that's all I knew. And I don't like doing things that I'm not an expert at. Like I don't do threads. I don't want to do threads. I have no interest in doing threads. Um, I like injecting. So, and I know that's what I'm good at. So that's what I focus on. And I think it's important for people to be known for something that they're really good at versus being average at a lot of things.
Yeah. So what part of your career did you kind of focus and say, hey, I'm going to steer more towards just the lips?
I mean, I always loved getting my own lips done, but I think lips are just very difficult to inject. I think they're harder to inject than people give them credit for, especially to do well. But also, again, when I first started injecting, we weren't doing jaw lines, we weren't doing noses, we weren't doing tear troughs. It was nasolabial fold and lip. That was it. And then Voluma came along, and it's like, oh, let's do our cheeks. So I injected for years where people would only come in for around the mouth and some Botox. So I guess I've just been doing that the longest. I just kind of took towards it. Um, and I was also getting my lips done before people thought it was cool, like before Kylie Jenner. So it was just kind of like my thing at that point. I was kind of known for my big lips, and then I just got really good at injecting them. So I think that's how that all evolved for sure.
Did Kylie Jenner kind of set that trend off, you think?
A
Like agree?
thousand percent. 1,000%. Her coming out saying that she was getting lip filler made it more socially acceptable for people to have lip filler because before her, it was like the housewives of Beverly Hills who all looked a little overdone. Um, and people didn't want to look like that, especially in my area. So, yeah, I think when she came out and said it was when, especially the younger generation, when they really wanted to get it done for sure.
Is majority of your practice lips, or do you do other things also?
I mean, I inject a lot of lips, and that's what we're known for. We do everything. The next thing I'm probably best at is jawline. Um, but yeah, we're pretty much known for the way we do our lip filler.
Nice, 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 nice. Now, and when people come in, definitely having a great brand, I think is important. It makes customers come through the door. But what are some things you do to kind of give that white glove service?
Um, I have to say, I don't make anybody wait. I don't have a waiting room filled with people where they're waiting for an hour. Like I'm in Jersey. If people wait 5 minutes, they get annoyed. So people do not wait when they come in. And if they do, it's a rare occurrence and it's never more than 15, 20 minutes. If it's 20 minutes, I'm struggling. But even with all of my other practitioners, everyone's to stay on time. We don't double book, we don't overbook. We book a very solid packed day, but we don't overbook. And we charge a little more for that. We do have higher prices and we do have a very filled day. It's not like people don't come. It doesn't deter people from coming, which is when I set out to train new injectors, I always tell people to set their prices a little higher because it's harder to go up versus just starting high. Um, but yeah, definitely don't make them wait. My office is beautiful. And we just make sure that everybody has the attention they need. They don't feel like they're just like in a cattle factory. It's very, very personable and everyone's very nice. And my staff is highly trained. There's no grouchy front desk girl. And we have a really good unit and we really do work together to make sure that the patients are happy.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said all those things because, like, especially with the staff, like you said, like the front desk matters so much. Everything matters so much. When you go into a practice, the beauty of the office, like I go visit practices daily. I'm like, oh, I would definitely go there. I would never go here. Like,
Mhm.
it really makes a difference.
It does make a difference for sure. And I know I'm a very like I wouldn't say I'm OCD, but like I'm like a little bit of a clean freak. So when I go into an office and it doesn't have to be aesthetics, and if it's dirty, it grosses me out. I'm just like, if they can't keep their office clean, how are they gonna inject me, and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Or if you have stuff everywhere, to me, that just means you're a little scatterbrained. So you want to go to whoever's the best. And the first thing people notice are your front desk and your practice, the way it looks. So I think that it's important to make sure that you put a lot of effort in those two things. And I think that the front desk, the phone calls, and whoever actually is sitting at your front desk, that's the hardest job, and it's the most important job. Because if they're mad stepping in the door because of your front desk girl, they're already put off and they're already going to give you a hard time, and they're already going to hate their experience with you because they're already annoyed.
Yep, exactly right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
Now, being in an office and you're out constantly hiring, I'm sure, what are some things you look for in great talent?
Um, for injectors or for
Well,
just
mainly for injectors. I'm sure for everybody, but mainly for injectors.
So I'm actually very lucky. I've never had anyone quit on me. I've had people that I've had to let go.
Nice.
But I've never had anyone actually quit. And I really attribute that to like, I don't tolerate any drama. We have a very open communication. I don't let any of that cattiness, like we squash anything. Like we're all girls and girls have issues, but like we are going to talk it out and we're all going to be friends, because at the end of the day, we see each other more than we see our family, right? So we are a family. And that comes with leadership. If you, especially as the boss, you can't be talking about other staff members behind their back to other staff members, because they're going to tell those other staff members. So when you have a toxic environment of everybody just talking about each other, you're always going to have this negative energy in the office. So I really make it a point to make sure that, number one, everybody's happy. Number two, everyone's paid well. Okay. So I know there's that's a big talk with, like, especially our mid-level injectors. You have to pay for things that are good. And that's at the end of the day, it has to do with everything. So if you're underpaying your staff, they're going to resent you. You're not going to retain talent. And I think it's important to invest in not only yourself and your practice, but like the people that are in your practice too. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into making people happy.
Yeah, I can agree 100% with that. All of those things, constant support, the pay, and just the healthy environment, people
Yeah.
want to stay.
Yeah.
Now, I know you do training also. Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about how people can come and get trained by you, and what do you do on training?
So the training thing is difficult for me. I do train for Allergan every now and then. I don't do private trainings. I know that I need to. I want to set up like a whole online platform. It's like on my to-do list. It's just for me to go and train, especially if I'm traveling. Like I'm already traveling a lot to speak at conferences, and I do go to quite a few conferences, and like I have young kids, so I can't be traveling every week to train. So I train like once a quarter, maybe. Usually it's something that is set up where I'm doing multiple practices, and I'll travel for a few days and go and do it. I'm going to transition more into that, but I definitely don't train as much as I want to, because at the end of the day, I make more money at the office. So, it's hard for me to leave my practice to go train. And that's kind of just the reality of it. But I'm going to try to do some kind of online platform at some point.
Yeah, definitely needed. Definitely needed in the industry, I say, sure. Now, speaking at all these conferences and doing all these press and things of that nature, has that helped your career? Tell us a little bit about that, even working with pharmaceutical companies to train.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely busy before all that. So I think that the fact that I did it on my own, you get noticed a little bit more. And then of course, like in this industry, it's always important to stay relevant. So I try to do as much speaking as I can, and I do enjoy it. I really do. But I don't want to be bought by anybody. I don't want to, you know, only push products based on who's paying me. Like I do love all of the products. I do say nice things about all of them. I do use all of them. I'm not like loyal to any one brand. And I try to be as honest and truthful as I can. And I think that that's what people respect most about me, is that I'm not going to lie or say certain things just because somebody is paying me to say those things. I have to, anything that comes out of my mouth is what I really think.
For sure, for sure. And that's always great. That authenticity is what people come to you for and be like, okay, I can
Mhm.
trust her. She's
Mhm.
not just selling me a product, or she's just
I'm
not.
fine. I'm fine. I think honesty in general, people just, and that goes with practices too. Like everybody knows who's shady. So always do the right thing, always be honest, and you're gonna do well. But as soon as you start to slip through the cracks or cut corners, that's when that's your demise.
How do you feel about the price shopping?
For patients,
Yeah, when they say, "Hey, I'm gonna price shop," or I know you don't get a lot of or any new patients, but
let them go. I don't want them. See you later. I don't do any of that. I really don't. Even with my injectors, other injectors in the office, um, I think for practices starting out, I think it's hard. You have to kind of take some of that. But no, I don't want people that are spending every last nickel and dime they have to come into my office. There's other places that they can go. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you know, it just is the nature of the beast, and you have to pay for experience. So I never run a sale, and I never lower my prices ever.
that's amazing because it's quality work. So, you want quality or you just want whatever, you know.
Yep. Yep.
And down here in South Florida, there's a real like bad black market industry, I think, where people that aren't even licensed doing lip filler and things of that nature.
Mhm.
So I really suggest like people look and do their research and find the best. Really, it's worth it.
Right. Right. I agree. And I think a lot of people that do go to these places, they know that they're not licensed. They just want it for that price, which is, it's unfortunate that we've set this standard where everybody feels that they have to do these things in order to be accepted by society, where it means going to some back alley and, spending money they don't have. There is this aspect of, I don't know, just morality that we all have to kind of abide by. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to lower my prices, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I definitely can agree with that for sure. For sure. Like I speak to some providers sometimes just to get the insight of the knowledge of the industry. And a lot of providers said even during the pandemic, like customers were still finding ways to pay for these surgeries because they wanted it so much. So
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Tell me a little bit about continuous education. Let's talk about that. Now, that's a very important topic. I feel like things are constantly changing in the industry. What are
Mhm.
some ways people can kind of gain continuous education? And tell me about your view on it.
I mean, I think it's important to keep up because I feel like every day there's something different. Do I think that means spending thousands of dollars to go to conferences all the time? Only if you can. But I think that there all these companies, they all do free webcasts, free education, free webinars. So I think that practitioners should be doing as much as that as they can. Um, I think it's always important to be constantly learning, even if you're at home and you're just studying anatomy. You can't ever know everything with anatomy. So, yeah, I think it's important to always be learning and always be educating yourself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. For new providers that are constantly entering the industry, and they're always asking me for advice, what are some quick tips that you can give them if they're going to feeling frustrated or feel like they're never going to get in?
It's so hard for me to stay positive in this industry because I think it is really hard. And I think a lot of people enter it thinking it's all fun and games, but I think it's very difficult, especially dealing with these patients. A lot of them you're dealing with people that have personality disorders, you're dealing with people that have body dysmorphic disorder, you're dealing with serious things. And if you don't have the confidence as an injector, they will eat you alive. So I think that it's important to maybe, and I say this to everybody, I really think you should work for somebody else for a very long time, get as much experience as you can. And then if you want to go off on your own, you shouldn't do it behind their back. It should be a conversation that you have, and you should try to never burn a bridge, and you should always leave on good terms. Um, but if you're going to just go off and open a med spa and you have no experience, you're going to crash and burn. It is what it is. It's impossible to know all of this stuff. So I think people should get as much experience as they can, get as confident as they can before going off and trying to do something on their own for sure.
Yeah, yeah. How do you deal with a patient that is experiencing some type of body dysmorphia? Like, what are some things that you do to kind of navigate that situation?
It's very hard because they don't know that they have body dysmorphic disorder. It's like usually people that don't see what you see. But you have to gently just not recommend the things that they really want and just be moral in your own assessment where, you know, if they really want something, they're going to find somebody that's going to do it for them. It doesn't have to be you though.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about some other leaders within the industry. You being a leader yourself, for sure, but tell us about some other leaders in the industry that you would suggest for people to follow or check out.
I mean, I love Injector Bunny, my friend Erica. I love Lamore Beauty Bay. I love my friend Brittany, MP Brit. Shelby Miller, I think she's a legend. Those are all my mid-level gang, and there's so many people I'm not mentioning. I love Dr. Subio. I love Jan Trocal. I love Ben Talay. There's so many to name. I just can't think of everyone right now, but there's so many people to follow on Instagram, so many people to emulate, so many people to kind of look up to. And that's kind of the positive side of social media, is that you can really relate and connect with these people on social media. And a lot of injectors that I know, especially my friends and, you know, well-known injectors, we do answer our DMs, you know, especially, at least I do. I do try to help people as much as I can. So I just say follow as many people on social media, go to conferences, try to network, try to meet people, because it is a big industry, but it can be a small industry once you know some certain people.
For sure, no, I agree. I couldn't agree more, honestly.
Yeah.
Do you think it's mandatory for an injector to have a social media in this day and age?
I don't think it's mandatory because I think it can actually work against you. I think it's a great tool to use to get patients, but all of my other injectors in my practice don't have social media, and not because I don't let them, they just don't do social media. And my injector that has the most experience, she's been injecting 18 years. She never did social media and she's super busy.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're going to do social media, try to do it well. Because if you're going to kind of half-ass it, it's going to just reflect on you as a practitioner. Like I hate to say it, but if somebody has a mediocre social media, I won't go to them. And I hate to say that, but we should work more on word of mouth.
You don't do your own injectables?
I do actually. I do. No, there's certain things I've had done by other people, but no, I do my own. I think it's a control thing. I just like the way I inject. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand. But thank you so much, Jessica, for sitting down with me and speaking more about the
Of
aesthetic
course.
industry.
Of
Tell everybody
course.
where they can find you and what you got planned upcoming.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm always on social media posting everything. I will be speaking next in Scottsdale for Millennium. That's in February. After that, I'm not quite sure. I gotta look at my schedule, but that's the more recent one. And yeah, I'm always around. So just look for the red hair. I'm easy to spot.
Awesome, awesome. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye.